The world would be a much better place if all those who become parents were first aware of the great role they play in their child's life, and then make the decision to have a child. In the few years that I have been studying, I cannot even remember one person who did not have a problem related to their childhood conditions, either directly or indirectly. Most of the parents had suffered from their own parents, and, since they usually did not seek treatment for the damage they had suffered, they were unaware of the damage they were causing their children. This defective cycle continues until finally one or more members of the family have to do something to repair the damage they have caused. Would you like to propose a relationship to your crush, but you are too shy? Have you been unable to express what you have in your heart and say it to him, her? Even when you are in a relationship, can you keep it healthy? Do you not know why? Do you get angry quickly when she says something and you can't have a normal conversation? Why can't you control your anger and show strange and dangerous behaviors when you are angry? Why do you think it will take a long time to change? Do you set goals for yourself and when you think about it, you think it's too late and you are too old to reach it? Have you been so defeated in life that you feel worthless and you don't think you deserve good things in life? Do you even feel unworthy when you see something expensive, even if you don't have the money to buy it? Is your pain so great that you have to resort to drugs, gambling, or alcohol to numb yourself and feel the same? Oftentimes we become addicted to numbing ourselves and not feeling our pain, the pain that we often don't even realize we have. We just know there is an emptiness that needs to be filled, and the addiction temporarily fills that void. Over time, however, it will add to the depth of the emptiness, and now we must deal with an even bigger pain. Another factor that affects an adult's life story is the mental filters that are created in childhood. This person judges others based on these mental filters and interprets the words of others based on them. For example, it has happened to many of us that someone said something and we got upset, even though the person's intention was completely different and we gave it our own meaning. For example, if someone had a critical father and was scolded more than encouraged in childhood, this experience would make the person feel inadequate all the time. When this person's boss gives him feedback at work and asks him to make improvements, he hears something like, "You are inadequate." Why? Because his mental filters, based on unresolved experiences or childhood, don't allow him to hear the real meaning of the words. Why don't you want to talk about the past, when your life has stabilized and several years have passed since those painful events? Why don't you feel peace? Can't you be happy from the bottom of your heart? We often think that when we have been through a traumatic event and several years have passed, we don't need treatment anymore, so we put those painful memories in a box, lock it, and try not to talk about it anymore because we get angry when we remember it, but we don't realize that by suppressing it, it slowly takes us away from our feet. Sometimes, the treatment is such that our condition gets worse before it gets better, and unfortunately, everyone is not ready to take such a risk. Imagine a woman who has been sexually abused by her brother for many years as a child, never receiving treatment, and now has various physical and mental illnesses and is almost in a healthy state.
Even though she has carried the pain of the abuse for 40 years, when she looks at her emotional and sexual relationships, she can't find a healthy one. She has always been in relationships with dangerous and violent men. Now she is married, but she has never felt good about this man, even though he seems to be healthier than the men she was with before. Because of her illness, she even feels so bad when her husband looks at her and compliments her appearance that she thinks he is going to abuse her. She asks herself, why can't I be comfortable in my own home with a husband I love? Why? There are physical illnesses that have psychological and mental roots. In psychology, they are called psychosomatic, or mental physical illnesses, which have a psychological origin but physical symptoms. Every year, many patients seek medical help for their physical symptoms, and after multiple tests, doctors cannot find the cause of the illness, which are usually psychosomatic. These illnesses are usually created by our minds and are related to our mental state. In this situation, our body gives us a sign that something is wrong in our lives. For example, the anger we have towards certain people in our lives, even though this anger destroys us from within, we still continue to have it until our body says enough and we become ill to understand that we need to change our behavior patterns. We can conclude that events that have happened to you in childhood and in the past have a direct effect on your happiness or unhappiness in adulthood. Our body is very close to our mind, and when we make a wrong turn, It wants to make us aware of the wrong path we are taking. This time, when your body gets sick, think more about your life, your decisions, your feelings, and see where you are going wrong. We are responsible for our own mental health and the future generations. First of all, we must treat our problems and then learn how to behave with our children. Before making a decision about having children, we should ask ourselves if we know what can harm them as parents. What can make them irresponsible and weak? What can destroy their self-esteem? What can give them false confidence? What can make them anxious and fearful? What can cause them distress? What can make them liars? What can make them cruel and violent? What can lead them towards smoking, drugs and alcohol? Do we know the difference between discipline and dictatorship? Do we know the difference between being firm with children and hitting them? Do we know what kind of damage verbal abuse between parents can cause to children? Do we know how much security spending time with the family, not just a mother or father separately, can give to a child? Do we know what kind of consequences favoritism among children can have? Do we know what favoritism means? And do we realize that we are practicing favoritism? Do we know what kind of effect our relationship as parents has on our children's future relationships? Do we know how important the relationship between the child and the primary caregiver, usually the mother, is in the first 3 years of life for long-term relationships that the child will have with other people? If we don't know the answer to even one of these questions, it can be damaging. We don't have to be perfect, but we can do our best, and this doesn't happen when we don't take steps to learn what we don't know. Nobody is immune to emotional wounds. Nobody is exempt from the scars of their past. Nobody is without the bruises of childhood. We now know that almost every human being that comes into this world, by the time they reach 8 years old, has been subjected to wrong beliefs, upbringing and discipline, which in reality is fear, warning and control. Today, there is awareness and knowledge that we can go to this part of the brain and fix it. So if we don't have a good childhood, at least we can have a healed one. Thank you for watching this video until the end.